Hey derps! In this video I'll discuss some of my opinions of Battlefield 3 regarding bugs, balance, suggestions, and gameplay features. For the footage, I have managed to join a Caspian border server a couple of times before they took them down, which is a damn shame to be honest. However, I warn you that not a whole lot of interesting stuff goes on. Depending on how long the commentary is, I'll probably also throw in some random footage. For the Caspian border footage, I mostly kicked back and just simply tried to explore the map. I didn't really get a chance to access too many vehicles or test out any of the jets or helicopters for the matter. There was one time where I did manage to spawn into a Mi-28, but as soon as I spawned in, the teammate had already had the helicopter in a freaking dive to the ground and crashed seconds after I spawned in. So, with about 9 hours clocked into the beta so far, there really isn't too many annoyances that I have against the game, but keep in mind 9 hours of experience versus the thousands I've spent in total on the previous releases is still quite easily subject to change. First, I'd like to talk about some of the bugs present. The top priority bugs I've noticed so far are the ability to sink into the map through map collision. DICE has already announced that for the beta, they've released the hotfix server side and will find a better solution come release. One game that I've played in, I've seen players intentionally abuse this glitch and try to camp underneath the MCOMs on the first stage of Operation Metro. Pretty lame. I've even managed to get stuck into a crater, not necessarily pass through the map, but get stuck in a ditch, unable to get up because it was too steep. Thanks a lot, dicks. On a few occasions, I've ran into a bug where firing at an enemy inflict 0 damage. I've ran into this a couple times while shooting at a player disarming a charge, only to get killed after emptying all of my rounds. And also ran into a glitch where the weapon did not fire. That's about the majority of the major issues I've come across thus far. Some other minor bugs worth mentioning, like visual glitches of floating weapon attachments and crossbow bipods are still present, but not too much of a big deal considering this is beta. Oh, and suppressed pistols sound will cut off after firing a couple of rounds, so I guess if you want to be really sneaky, just use that and nobody will hear you shooting at them. As far as gunplay goes, there's a lot of discussion with the current weapon damage model. Personally, I'm fine with it. I'm willing to make a compromise for slightly reduced damage, and I'm talking only maybe like 1 or 2 more bullets extra to kill. Those that do not like it, fine, hence their preference, but it's funny to see how some of the complainers that joke about Battlefield 3 being a Bad Company 3 are still the same ones that want to have the same weapon damage model from Bad Company 2. I would agree that it is a bit too easy to spray and pray at mid-range, and would like to see the effectiveness of spraying reduce, but then again, still not too much. I mentioned this in one of my previous Battlefield 3 wish list Bad Company 2 commentaries, where I'd like to be able to learn a weapon and effectively learn how to control full auto fire. The AK-101 for Battlefield 2 would be a good example. High medium damage with high recoil. You can spray with this weapon close up and in turn have great results, but at range opt for burst fire or single shot fire mode. I also suggest to reduce the aim down sight speed with LMGs, considering they're larger and heavier. Also, with so many unlocks available during the end game of Battlefield 3, you'll probably rarely run into a gun that doesn't have a scope attached to it. Maybe this is necessarily due to the nature of larger map design, but I would wish there was some more benefit of using iron sights only, perhaps like throwing an extra frag grenade or something. Now, compared to Bad Company 2 normal mode, take into consideration, sure, Bad Company 2 had shoddy hit range, but for an example, it felt like it required 15 rounds or more close range to kill one person. This is with like ARs and SMGs, and 15 rounds to hit, not necessarily firing 15 rounds. Maybe if BC2 had decent hit reg, it might take a lot less hits to kill, but I'm quite pleased with this current system. In BC2, it felt like the philosophy of the game is to encourage tight-knit group firefight action, whereas it is a lot more beneficial to focus fire on targets than to go off and engage multiple targets by yourself. Yeah, this sounds like common sense, but at times it's almost like you need to have your hand held by teammates to effectively kill targets. Sure, this model may encourage team play, but it penalizes those who wish to fight aggressively solo by having low weapon damage and other hindrances like 3D spotting, automatic shoutouts, etc. Personally, I found this a bit annoying in Bad Company 2, where if I outflank and outsmart a group of enemies, but still struggle or fail to kill my prey of 2 or more bad guys, because they were able to soak up the bullet damage and then turn around and shoot back, is kind of lame. This is probably when you may notice more players that prefer higher damage output weapons that almost borderline OP compared to the rest of the weapons like the UMP, MG36, and so on. Aside from some of the dumbed down features and mechanics of the game compared to previous Battlefield titles, part of the reason why I dislike Bad Company 2 is because it tailors towards this type of playstyle. I preferably like to play aggressively, but in a lot of circumstances it felt like the game punished for wanting to use my preferred playstyle. I tried to adjust, but meh, no worries anymore. Now, with a higher weapon damage system, reduced hindrances like slightly less overpowered 3D spotting, being able to prone, less auto shotouts, slightly less linear rush map design, even though I'll primarily play Conquest, so far, etc. The game design fits my playstyle much better with Battlefield 3 compared to BC2. The downside to the higher weapon damage model is that it is obviously less forgiving. To do well, you have to learn line of sights, play more careful, and use common sense. If you wish to use aggressive playstyle, it's a bit of a gamble, but if you can pull it off, if you can manage to flank and sneak past enemies, you will be rewarded with sweet, delicious kills. If you run around too carelessly, you will be punished. It may sound selfish of me, if you may get the impression that I like to run around going Rambo and shit, but you know what? Guess what? You're right! Because who doesn't like beasting, son? Just kidding. But seriously, the new weapon damage system and handling model, it's an interesting change compared to the previous high random deviation crap that they used to use, or emphasize. Anyways, looking at it in short term in the beta, most of us have only played Operation Metro. We've yet to see how well the weapons balance out on other maps. I'd like to try to conserve judgment on this topic until post-release. Looking at it in the long term, trying to predict, say 6 months or a year down the line, say the majority of the players are by this time are familiar with the maps, and know where to post up for line of sight, know the routes, etc. Especially for the rush game mode too. The high weapon damage model may hinder fast gameplay and yet further encourage camping. But it's still difficult to predict exactly how things will turn out. One thing I'd like to use is to test out to see how effective smoke cover will be, and this will definitely come in handy, for example, in the second stage of Operation Metro. Next, I'd like to briefly discuss weapon balance experience so far. Some of the weapons that I've used so far and been killed by, balance-wise, seems okay for the most part. I don't expect DICE or Demise to come out with a perfectly balanced system at launch. If you think otherwise, you're only kidding yourself. Pistols felt like Battlefield 2. The 44 Magnum, on the other hand, would make Dirty Harry proud. With 6 shots, it can 2- and 1-shot people. I wouldn't mind seeing an increase of 1 extra hit to kill, but damn, that shit's crazy. I haven't tested it in beta yet, but the 1911 in alpha felt a bit underpowered. Again, make it like 3 shots to kill at close range would be fine. Also, no stupid weak-ass burst-firing pistols like the G18, for example. I was amazed to see that it doesn't shoot marshmallows. Amazing! The Remington pump-action 870 shotgun is completely badass. Finally, the pump-action shotgun gets a well-deserved buff compared to BC2. Faster pump action, no. Well, let me just casually pump it, and no, it's like motherfucker ready to go. And it's like, I'm a huge fan of shotguns. Boomsticks give me broners. Semi-automatic shotguns to take a back seat this time. But when I did test the M1014, it did feel like it was nerfed post-alpha. I like how the light armor rocket systems are no longer retarded like the Carl Gustav. I can't confirm, but it would be nice if rockets have an arming time like the underslung grenade launcher. Imagine performing an impact kill with a rocket would be funny to see. Also, since apparently aircraft do not come standard with flares, but can be locked shortly after, portable anti-air seems a bit overpowered right now. I mean, you can lock onto a target and the rocket almost behaves just like the RPG plus tracer combo in BC2. Rockets can make 180-degree turns and crap like that, so until I get more experience or at least get a chance to see how jets handle and all that, I'll reserve further judgment on that. As for knifing, I wish they would change it so if you have the knife equipped, you will have the choice to either on PC left click to perform the stealth kill or right click if you'd rather opt to just do the quick slash. As of now, regardless if you use a quick knife keybind or even if you already have it equipped or whatever, if you're behind or to the side of a target, it will still, no matter what, perform the stealth knife kill. In some instances, it would be more beneficial to go for the two quick knife slash method if you're trying to like knife multiple targets quickly. Also, I prefer the older knife stealth kill animation from Alpha. It seemed a lot more like violent and badass without taking the dog tag. Previous, your character would like plunge and stab the victim, and now it's more of a like slash and drag, and somehow the knife drags the dog tags off, dwindles onto the knife. It's kind of novelty, but meh, whatever. It's still fun nonetheless. That's it about for now. Yeah, until I come across more ideas, whatnot. Thanks for watching. See you.